So firstly, like figuring out people's like thought patterns. So Brody, do you remember the last time that you like pet a cat? Yes. Okay. Can you imagine like your dream house? Yes. Okay, cool. So Brody's eyes moved up there. So she's typically a visual thinker, which makes a lot of sense because you're doing graphic design. So if someone's eyes move up a lot when they're thinking, it means they're a visual thinker. If their eyes move left and right, it means they're like auditory, so listening. If their eyes look down a lot, or if they like fidget and they're like Brody is like kinesthetic, so they need like demonstrations and things like that. There's a fourth one, I think it's called digital, and their eyes just don't fucking move. And it's really weird. So police use that actually when they try to give descriptions of crime scenes, so they don't, I can't remember what it is, they don't describe it wrong, so they use very digital language, which is very like cold. Now the reason that's interesting to know is because once you figure out how people think, you know how to use the right language. So if someone's a visual thinker and you're trying to influence them, you have to use language like, can you see how this would work for you? Or if they're kinesthetic, they're probably going to need like a hands-on demonstration or something like that. Or if they're auditory, they're probably really bad at geography. So I have a funny story about this. Like I was in the car with someone and she was driving and we're talking about what subjects we were good at in school. And she said she was really bad at geography. And I said, yeah, because you're an auditory thinker. You learn by listening and things like that. And she was like arguing with me, but then she was driving, she pulled out, and because she didn't look, she literally swiped a car, and it took every fucking ounce of self-control I had in my body to not say I told you so. So there's that. So you can use like their same language. And then also the direction that their eyes move when they're recalling or creative. So if your eyes move to the left, so that person's left and you're right, it means they're recalling and thinking in the past. If they move to the right, it means they're being creative. So I didn't remember I did that interview, and so I did an interview with someone, and one of the questions I asked is, tell me about a time that you monumentally fucked something up at work. The answer itself doesn't actually matter. I don't care what they fucked up. I just care about how they think about the question. And he didn't have an answer for me. And at first his eyes moved to the left. He was trying to think of something, and then he went, I don't know, I guess I just like shortchanged someone or something like that. And his eyes moved to the right, which suggests either he just like made that up and he's just lying to me, but also it suggests that he doesn't reflect on his mistakes, which is really what we want. I don't care about people making mistakes, I care about them reflecting on them. So that's eye movement. Then there's also mirroring, which you probably know. Now you can do that like through body language or through speech. So mirroring is just doing the same thing as someone. So if someone's standing like this, you're literally just going to mirror there. Yeah, just like exactly like. Actually, other way. So you would have exactly like that, yeah. So literally a mirror. You don't want to make it too obvious, like the straight away that you do it, but you can also do it with speech as well. You just repeat the last 3 words of their sentence. And the other thing that gets them to do it, gets them to elaborate more as well. So if they go, what did you do on the weekend? I went to Magna House. Oh, you went to Magna House? Yeah, I went to Magna House. I was like, did this and then went to, I don't know, like Voodoo Lounge afterwards. Oh, you went to Voodoo Lounge afterwards? And then you just keep, and then they just open up more and more and more. The other thing you can use mirroring for is you can test it to see if you've actually built rapport with someone or not. So what you could do is, I used to do this, like if you're talking to someone, just start nodding. And if they start nodding as well, you know that you've built rapport. But it's like a really cool little test you can do and things like that. So that's mirroring. And then there's also ways, when it comes to actually people making decisions, there's 2 little kind of like hacks you can do. So you guys probably know the yes or the yes close that I used to do, which is basically, so I learned this from Peter Lakovich, who taught me sales. He used to do like the Mazda Zoom campaign and all that stuff. And he said he used to work in a deli for his dad, and his dad taught him, whenever someone buys a pie, don't ask if they want sauce with that or not. Just ask, hey, do you want 1 or 2 sauces? Because now not yes or no, it's just yes or yes. This is the quantity that you're talking about. So sometimes you do that with like payment options, like, hey, you can either do like 10% like off, or you can do like this payment option. Of the 2, what are you leaning towards, A or B? And now their brain isn't thinking yes or no, it's just thinking, do I want to do that payment option or do I want to do that payment option? So you can use stuff like that. Or if it's just like 2 restaurants you want to go to, like, hey, do you want to go to KFC? Do you want to go to the other KFC? So things like that. But there's also, you can like seek an affirmative answer by looking for a no. So people's defenses typically go up when you ask for a yes, like, hey, do you want to get started? And then they start looking for excuses. So what you can do is you ask a question that's no orientated, but it makes the logical response essentially an affirmative. So like I was saying before, it's like, hey, is it totally unreasonable for us to get started after this conversation? and that they'll say no, which means the logical answer is yes, and things like that. And so that kind of lowers their resistance a little bit as well. There's plenty more like pretty advanced techniques that there are, but those are probably the 4 most fun ones that you can get the most juice out of, and you start doing party tricks and shit like that. That's really fun. You can look at like Chinese face reading, which is fun, which I've started researching, but it's super fucking advanced and a little bit tricky, and also a little bit woo-woo. Yeah, does that all kind of make sense? Use it for good.